All right, here we go. It is episode 53 of Stick to Hockey Live. Jason Myrtetus and the Hall of Famer, Al Morganti. What's going on, Al?
It's not the real Hall of Fame. It's the media kind of Hall of Fame. So
No, it's still the Hall of Fame. Don't downplay it.
it's some guy named Elmer. So Elmer Ferguson Award. So since everybody thought my name was Elmer Gantry when I got here, so I guess that fits.
Yeah, no doubt, right? How's it been since you got in? Has it been a whirlwind? We talked to you right before you went, but
Yeah,
how
yeah,
was the whole thing?
yeah, it's pretty cool. It was. There were a lot of people up there I hadn't seen in a bit. A lot of obviously media people, but Dominic Hasek was up there, so I hadn't seen him in a bit. I don't think I'd seen him 10 years or whatever. He was up there. It was pretty great. It's a nice weekend. And for anybody that hasn't gone, the Hall of Fame is really cool. Even if you
Yeah,
don't like Canadians, the locker room they have there is ridiculous. To kind of sit in that locker room is really cool. So
yeah.
I highly recommend it. And Toronto's nice anyway, just to go up and hang out. And your money goes a long way right now, the American dollar. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it's like $1.40 up there.
Yeah.
Um, so when you sign an autograph for somebody at your local Wawa or whatever, do you
I
sign
won't. I won't.
HOF?
If they ask, I don't like doing it. But if they ask, you put HHOF. But I don't like doing it. I,
uh, would you rather just take a picture with somebody?
yeah, it's funny. It's hard to even take pictures anymore because like people wear these T-shirts or sweatshirts with like stuff on them, like political stuff or whatever, and you say,
Yeah,
"Sorry, I just can't take a picture with you with that. I
yeah,
have no. I don't care what your leanings are, but I just can't. One way or the other, it's
because
gonna
that
get.
has that the person's political belief then becomes yours.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't. If you want to take the shirt off, put it inside out. I'm good.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you're right though. Like, and even if you share that political belief, you don't want to put the picture out because
no.
nobody needs to know that
Well,
business about
hard
us.
to do. Like if they're wearing a Penguins jersey
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Philly,
good point.
like this is
Yeah,
not good. But yeah, it's fun. Anything with the kids are fine. So it's whatever.
yeah. Um, so let's talk about this team. You and I were at practice yesterday. They had a pretty spirited practice yesterday. Really a lot of pace to it. Pretty long practice, but boy, the team's coming off a rough weekend. Al, they got outscored in the weekend 12-2, and really punctuated and accentuated by that 7-0 loss against the Devils, who ironically last year Al finished 2 points ahead of the Flyers, 63
Yeah,
points, and the Flyers
but
finished 61.
yeah, you see what happens when their young, skilled players get
Yeah,
better. I mean, Hughes is insane, and there's another one coming there. Heischer's better than I thought. Now it makes that draft look even worse from either end, behind what they took with Nolan Patrick or what they couldn't get with Heischer when the Devils made the right choice there. Um, and it's a scary team now because their minor league system or their prospect pipeline is really good. So I mean that's a team that's going to get better and better. I think they improved. Obviously, they got the coach who used to be in Florida came up, and I think he's helped them an awful lot. And it's funny because the Flyers' problem had always been goaltending, and now they've got really good goaltending, even with the 7 goals. Erson's a good goaltender, it looks like. But the Devils have improved everywhere, but I worry about their goaltending.
me too.
So it's
Yeah.
really weird coming in. But I was on obviously doing the post and pregame in between periods, and after the second period, Ashlyn Sullivan, I just said, well, this is just a disparity in talent, and now I suggested, why not just go for it? What's the difference losing 3-0 or I said like 6-0 or whatever,
Yeah.
and I can see a player thinking like that, but Tortorella doesn't want them thinking like that. He wants to instill good defensive habits. But boy, I'll tell you, it'd be tempting as a player to say, you know what, we got no shot to win. Let's just risk stuff, and that risk stuff is a goalie's nightmare, and
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Yeah. It's you do all that, and now all the structure's gone, the predictability, and the goaltender's got to be flying all over the place like a crate, like Dominic Hasek, oddly enough.
Yeah,
Um, I think your things are like, are you hearing that static when you talk now?
not at all.
Okay,
I
I
get
wonder if people are hearing it. I'm getting like a static type thing when you speak for some. All of a sudden, it just happened. Um, Let me ask you about Hasek real quick, Al, because watching him play, he's one of those goalies that couldn't influence a generation of goalie because nobody could do what he did. Like, it didn't make sense. There was no rhyme or reason. It was just doing whatever it took for him to stop pucks. You saw like Brodeur, he influenced the generation. Patrick Waugh did it as well. But the lack of structure and technical elements to Hasek's game didn't do that. But what's he like from a personality standpoint? Is he pretty surly, or what's the deal with him?
I always got along with him. He had issues with his media in Buffalo. I think he went after Jim Kelly at one point, not the quarterback, the beat writer for the Sabres, because he was emotional. I liked covering him a lot because he was really into it and emotional about everything, even the questions you asked him. So I never. It's funny. He was almost. I don't want to make the comparison on the ice, but Brizgalov like in his emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and he was fun. My favorite memory of him was when I don't know, people may not remember the Stanley Cup that Dallas won in
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo on the quote illegal goal. And I was with ESPN and I was supposed to go into the losers' locker room. And Dom wouldn't take his uniform off and basically came to the door and said, "The game's not over. Nobody's
Yeah.
coming in here till they reverse the goal." And it didn't
Wow.
happen. So that's how emotional he was. And you're right, you can't. He's a coach's nightmare, I would think. Now, I know nothing about goalies. I leave that to people like you. But I know that there is coaching that goes to it. And I know that having coached kids in hockey, tennis a little bit, um, and I'm a bad player, but I can teach. Taught skiing, and I was a bad skier, but I can teach beginners.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy who breaks all the rules.
Yeah.
So if you're he's the prime example for me of a coach's nightmare on a very, very talented kid who you can't put inside some set of rules. Keep your feet on the ground when you hit the ball or whatever. Then you watch Wimbledon and the best players are in the air. And he
Yeah.
was the same thing in goal. There was no rules. It was just stop the puck, and it was just complete athleticism and compete. And that's what he did. Um, I would never have a kid watch the tape and say, "Here, do this."
Yeah.
Uh, because it's a rare kid that can do that, and you just let him go. And it, of all the players I've ever covered, he made everybody different. Like a guy named Michael Pekka would win the defensive forward, the Selkie,
Yeah.
or general manager would win general manager of the year, or the coach would win coach of the year. And honest to God, Jason, I don't know how good any of them were.
Yeah. Because he covered up so much.
Yeah, it was like, what the heck? How do I know? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many high danger chances were given up, and he saved, and he just saved everything. And it was fun. It was a blast watching him. And I don't know how you would try to figure out how to beat him, since I don't know if he knew what he was going to do.
No, that's the unpredictability. The cat and mouse game. There was no cat and mouse game because he was just all over the place. You had no
Yeah,
idea.
I
You,
would. I mean, I haven't watched him in like in shootouts and stuff. I don't know about that. I mean, that's where I
yeah.
think you might to do something, but that didn't really exist.
Yeah, I mean, imagine pre-scouts on him. In this situation, he does that, but he also does this, and he also does that. Like,
No,
it's got to be
you have
nuts.
no idea what he's gonna do. Like you kind of know what most goaltenders kind of, although they study the shooters more
Yeah,
than you study the goalies. You just want them to make a move. You don't care what kind of move. You want to freeze them,
yeah,
whatever you can do to freeze them. Or maybe a guy has a tendency to come out and try to swat a puck, or his stick doesn't cover the 5-hole or whatever. Maybe. I know with Brizgala, funny, that was the case on the 5-hole on anything near a breakaway,
yeah,
where you moved across the middle of the ice and it would open up. But there was nothing with Hasek like that.
yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. I wish I could go back and watch his career and see it for the first time and appreciate it properly. Now, I don't think I did at the time. Um, so the team this weekend out, they get pasted. I don't know what was worse though, to be honest with you, that Montreal game or the Devil game. Montreal's missing 13 players, and they seemed listless. But were you surprised? Because post game, Torch was pretty subdued, maybe is the right word, and rather understanding. Look, he was on the trip. He knows what that's like coming back from that trip, that first game back after going out of the time zone like that. And it is a tough one for teams. But I was surprised how understanding he was. But it led me to believe I don't know exactly what his message has been like in the locker room of late. Because sometimes when things go shitty, you hug the guys. Sometimes you peel the paint off the walls and you curse them out. But
Yeah,
there's different pitches you got to throw as a coach.
yeah. Again, we were doing the post game when I was with Ashland, and people within the building were saying, well, he's going to go, crazy on them. I said, no, he's not, because it wasn't a case of not trying at all. Look, that I believe was the game where they put Bourne at left wing.
Yeah,
Uh,
Braun.
and Braun at left. Braun. I was just talking about Bourne's son, a book that he wrote. Braun at left wing, and I'm like, well, this is not an easy situation for this team. It's not like you and Konechny they were just learning. He was going to be out for a long time, and I thought he can't jump all over him because as much as anything, there's coaches' decisions in what you do with your lineup. Now, I don't quite exactly know what's happening there. My suspicion is, I mean, yeah, he always wanted to play Braun and get him in, veteran player, and I don't know. There's something going on there that he has to play a certain amount, and maybe to trade. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
he does this.
Show he's healthy.
I guess that might be it. But putting him up front was alarming to me.
Yeah, me too.
When there are other players there. So I mean, it was like, okay, this is outside of the norm, and they were coming back from a trip, and I don't think it was necessarily a case of lack of effort. It was some bad effort, some chasing or whatever. But I think it's at the point now. It would have been ridiculous to jump all over that team at that point because Tortorella has to. He knows what he is. I think he's a very good coach. But he knows that he can't lose a locker room. He has to keep a locker room for a long time, beyond this year.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect that would happen. I kind of know times when he's going to kind of lay out on the team and just, that was terrible. We didn't compete or whatever. But I think it's at this point, it's like I can't jump all over him because I don't. There's not a big ceiling for this year. There will be some veteran players, I think, maybe toward the end of this year that he can send a message to, but he's in a real tough spot. Look, when you ask a team to, and this is going to be very basic, but it's almost like you're saying, let's go out there and play our best and we'll lose 2-3. Well, nobody wants to lose.
Yeah.
and when that's your ceiling, that's tough to get guys to buy in.
Yeah, especially at this point, right, in the season.
Absolutely. It's let's put it. You get kids coming up that want to prove themselves in different ways, and let's face it. To be really honest, you make dollars and cents with points, and that's not going to happen here. So he's got a real tough task going in through the remainder of this season. And I think we saw it this weekend. The fact that they lose like that, and it wasn't like railing or screaming or anything. It was like, well, part of it is, I think he's admitting right here, this is going to be a tough sell from a coaching standpoint to play within this system that we want without Konechny, with little chance of having the game breaker. You looked at Devils, and if they played like that, they've got three guys that can break the game. Well, the Flyers don't have three guys that can break the game. They don't have. If it was a football team, that wouldn't be the hands team going out for the illegal kick.
Yeah, I think he knows that he can't go freak out about results when he's missing so much talent. And look, they don't have a lot of talent fully healthy, high-end talent. Couturier, obviously, Atkinson is. I mean, these players help, and Konechny has been more than a point per game. He's got 54 points in 52 games. But without him, I mean, who do they chuck over the boards and the other team goes, oh shit, he's on the ice?
Yeah, that's why, people want to keep bringing up. That's why when I was like, what? Go get Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, no, he's
Mhm.
probably not going to get you in the playoffs this year. But if this Gauthier comes up and he's a skill player, and maybe you got a couple to go with, but they, their their idea of rebuilding this thing wasn't to go throw that much cash at somebody and have very little hope. Like Columbus threw all that cash at them; they're worse than the Flyers.
Yeah.
But
29-year-old winger, that I think that's part of it too.
well, but you look at Columbus and you look at next year. If they ever did get Bedard, and
Yeah.
they have so many, they're banged up as the Flyers. When you
Yeah.
look at some guys missing in their line, that could be an amazing turnaround
Yeah.
for next year, and one of the biggest ever if it all works
Yeah.
out.
I think that Gaudreau provided a lot of false hope there. Would have done the same here,
Yeah,
because one player doesn't do it as you're seeing out there. And it's not like, oh, it's shitty coaching or it's this or that. I mean, they're just not a deep team, and you need a team to win in this game. Let me ask you. Torts mentioned it yesterday. TK is going to be out, and he's going to be out a while. He said we were going to get some details yesterday. We haven't gotten those, so I don't know if there's a surgery coming. But to me, it sounds like there's a good chance that he could be shut down for the year. There's only 21 games left.
yeah. Why
Um,
would
yeah, I mean, and at this point, Al, I mean, I think they're like the seventh worst point percentage in the league, and they're a thousandth up on Montreal. You come down the stretch here, your odds of getting a guy like Bedard and drafting higher can go up here at the end of this season. And I'm never a shut a guy down type thing. But because I think Couturier should come back if he can come back, because I think I need that knowledge that can he come back and can he play and not have a setback going into this. I need that knowledge going into the off season. I
yeah,
know some people are out there going, the season means nothing, shut him down. Well, I'd like to get something out of it for Couturier and find out going into the off season whether because I don't want to go through next summer hearing, oh, I feel the best I've felt in years and all that shit. And then 3 games in, setback, and we don't see him again the rest of the year. I want to know something now.
yeah. I think he does too. I think
Yeah.
beyond anything he does, and I think the fly, like more than I think the Flyers want to know. I think he'll play some games toward the end. I think he needs to get back and see what you've got, how healthy he is, how he feels. So I mean, I would shut down Konechny though. Um, I look, I got my medical degree at Wawa, so what do I know? But
Yeah.
when any player leaves the ice with his pulling his arm toward his body, it's generally a shoulder or collarbone,
Yeah.
whether it's subluxated, dislocated, whatever it is, and then it would need surgery at some point, usually. So I would think if you told me they were just going to be safe with him and shut him down, I'd say, you know what, it makes sense because where you going anyway, and he's been really good, but if it's a matter of just get it done early rather than after the season, if it needs anything, I'd do it now.
Yeah. I agree. I think I just fixed your static on your mic, by the way. I don't know how I did it. I hit an automatic thing, so it worked. And I think we know at this point what TK is under Torts, and we have enough data there to go forward, and that's a big element too. Um, it's trade deadline week, Al, and obviously JVR's name's all over the place on an expiring contract. And Jordan Greenway is part of a package that we're hearing about. And I mean, there's got to be a pick. There's got to be pick incentive there too. You're not trading James Van Riemsdyk for Jordan Greenway. They got a lot of Jordan Greenways already.
Yeah,
So I think taking Greenway would almost be how you get a higher pick in return because you're doing them a favor there because they need to clear
yeah,
cap. They're in cap hell beginning next year because of the Suter and Parisi buyouts. But the other name that's popped out there, I saw Frank Saravalli reported as well, that Kevin Hayes, he had him really high on his chart, that Kevin Hayes is drawing interest from 3 teams, Colorado, Boston, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But what's likelihood of you seeing him moved if the Flyers retained about $2 million?
well, people said I was crazy when I said the Bruins might be interested in him earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, whatever the Flyers pick up in salary, and don't forget the Bruins have the luxury of a couple of the best players in the league way underpaid.
Yeah.
So they can do some things, and he's the hometown guy. I think it would be a good fit. I think teams won't look at him more in the middle
Hmm.
then as a winger, and he played one game in the middle over the last couple of weeks. Somebody with Konechny out, I think they use him in the middle as a centerman. I think that's where teams are looking at him, and he's got good numbers. It's weird. If I were a pro scout watching him, I would say, well, there's obvious deficiencies here in his game, but there's results too. And
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys where you'd have to look past the salary. Obviously, Flyers picks him up, and see how does he fit with what we have.
Yeah.
And I think in Boston you could make a case.
Because of
Colorado,
Bergeron.
yeah, Colorado, and what's going to happen next year with
Hmm.
them. And Colorado, with their injury situation, you could probably make a case. I actually thought Winnipeg might be interested in him.
They already had him, though. It didn't work out last
I
time.
didn't, but I don't know, man. It's kind of wide open out there. So I mean, I don't know what his situation is, where he could go. I don't know his contract.
Well, he's got a
What
12 team. The other team
yeah,
is Carolina that Frank listed, and he says in his piece here on Daily Faceoff, he says he has him ranked as the third target, number 3 on his list. Like number 1's Jacob Chikrin,
yeah,
number 2 is Garakov from Columbus, number 3 is Kevin Hayes, and he says that the market has heated up on the rangy All-Star center in the last 48 hours with intelligence that the Flyers are willing to retain some salary on a transaction in order to facilitate a deal. How much? That depends on the return. And it's a big ask for the Flyers to retain for the next 3 years. Carolina, Colorado, Minnesota are among the teams that have been in touch with the Flyers on Hayes. He has a 12-team no-trade list, and none of the aforementioned teams appear to be on it.
yeah. Well, probably Winnipeg is. So
Yep. Yeah, every Canadian team is probably,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can see where he would be a. Don't forget, he's also if a general manager checks with some veteran players,
Mm-hmm.
he'd be a name that they would want.
Yeah,
He's
because of the
highly,
room.
yeah, he's highly regarded that way, and he's not a selfish guy.
Mm-mm.
And if you have a chance to sniff at winning, I can see where he would be a good fit, save the money. And so I don't know how much the Flyers would have to take in that, or how creative they could be in making it part of a bigger deal, where you
Yeah.
could get some prospects back in addition to whatever draft pick or whatever, a younger guy to try. I think that's the task they have here. Whatever they do at the deadline, to pick up some prospects that might not be working out somewhere else, that might work out where you are. This is heavily dependent on your coach or scouting,
Mm-hmm.
both NHL and lower level, maybe college, maybe certainly in the minors. Uh, this is dependent on that. This is an opportunity at a trade deadline. It's the opportunities at the trade deadline are really weighted for the teams not in it,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the teams in it. You look what's happening here with the Rangers probably going to get Kane, and Carolina might do something. All these teams going to do something, and one team is going to get two of the teams going to be out in like the first round that do
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
in the meantime, you're adding stuff because you're hopelessly out of it here. So you have to be. It's kind of inverse of what people think. Like when you're thinking, well, the Rangers better do something before Carolina does something, before Boston does something. Well, maybe the Flyers better do something before Columbus does something, before whomever does
Mm-hmm.
something. So
Yeah.
you can get whatever prospect your people are really, really high on. And that's where I think the Flyers have to really, if there's a chance to get better quicker, I think it would be with some of the people that you can bring in with this trade deadline. To me, it's as important to them as it is to those teams looking to get into the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. And the thing, Al, like they make the deal for Ratcliffe. They move him for the future considerations player. Evil Gritty tweeted me and asked me what number future considerations will be wearing. But that opens up a contract spot, and that always kind of I go, why do that there? Now they're down to 47 contracts. Is this a precursor to a move? Because Nashville's not getting him because they want the player right now. Like, I mean, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. He's been a healthy scratch in the AHL. This is some kind of precursor to some other move for the Flyers to open that contract, because it doesn't make any other sense. But one of the things Flyer fans right now are looking at is they see the general manager, they see the hockey operations department as not having a lot of urgency, because you see these moves, like you see what Toronto did in St. Louis, trading Ryan O'Reilly and Noah Chari. You see, these moves all over the league, and the Flyers have traded Isaac Ratcliffe. So
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is honestly how much in demand are Flyers prospects?
yeah, they fall to that second tier.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the problem. And if you don't want to include somebody that, you kind of are high on, and although there doesn't seem to be that much there, you're not going to be that first level. They can't wait to get somebody. Like, is there anybody that they're really like? They're not going to move Gauthier, right?
No,
That would be, okay. There's your pipeline there. What else is there? What the kid they've got up here right now?
Denoya.
Yeah, even though they seem pretty high on him, weren't we high on Ratcliffe when he came up? I mean, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but you try to create a demand there, and what's gone on. The Flyers don't have it. I mean, to me, if you're looking for a big move, this is where Tortorella speaks in code when he started to say from the beginning of the year, we want to see who can play and also who can't.
Yeah,
This is where you start to wonder when he says can't, doesn't mean is a bad player. He means, is he going to live up to what we expected? Is
yeah,
Sanheim going to be that guy? Is Provorov? I mean, you have defensemen get you more. I happen to think Provorov's playing pretty well. He's
I
not
agree.
what I or anybody expected early, but defensemen bring you a lot. So the bold move would be one of the defensemen, whether it's Sanheim, whether it's Provorov, whomever. It's not going to be one of the guys. Braun. Those aren't going to get you the big deal. But one of those one of those two defensemen will, or a physical player who they always bring more to trade deadline than they're really worth, because teams think they have to be more physical in a playoff. The Rangers when they were uh, lighted out of the playoffs by Washington.
Yeah,
So the McEwen I think would have brought a lot in relative to what his value. But
Sealer too, for that matter.
Sealer, now Sealer's an interesting one. See, Sealer to me, I wouldn't move.
Yeah,
Uh,
because he's
good
making under 800 grand. He's got
good
another year.
contract, two-way
Yeah,
contract, good contract. I think an okay player. Goes out and plays hard, blocks. I don't think what you'd get in return would be worth trading him unless it's part of something really big. So I mean, that's where if you're looking for anything of real weight, it would be one of those defensemen. I can't think of the forwards that it's JVR. Okay, JVR. Yeah, I can see the value. Team looking at a power play, whatever. But to be really honest, since he's had that broken finger, if you were a pro scout and it wasn't the body of work with JVR you were looking at, if you were just saying, okay, I'm sending my scout out to see JVR over the past 2 weeks, I don't know what I would give up,
yeah.
because his game is, and it's probably because, I mean, when you tip that much and you're in the slot and there's any kind of injury that you have, it affects you. And I don't think he's been particularly good over the past 2, 3 weeks. I don't think he's been that good since he tried to come back from that surgery he had. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know people say he's a big name and he's got statistics, but if I were a pro scout writing on my report, what do you think? Uh, I wouldn't grade him that high right now. It would have to be saying, well, he's going to get better and he's going to be valuable in a playoff series on a power play.
Yeah, add some depth for you. A little net front guy for PP2 if you need that. Can skate. He's going to fit into any locker room. We know
Yeah,
that.
but again, if you were a pro scout and I told you, write a report for me on JVR around the net right now, what would you write there?
Yeah, I mean, Torts even said it yesterday. His game is dipped. It
Well,
has.
how many times were there tips or a stick in the crease and it always
Didn't
got there
finish.
previously? No,
Yeah,
and he hasn't since he came back from that surgery.
yeah. When you're dealing with the hand too, that's a tough one,
Yes.
because you need all appendages to have full
So I
full
mean, if they can, if
dexterity.
that's the general manager's job to sell that, to
Yeah,
make them get the most out of that. So that's where and I know what the fans think of, the front office, their dealings, and this is going to be one where people are going to look at closely.
Yeah, and look, I don't have a high expectation for this trade deadline because I think the moves of real consequence for this team. Now, if they moved Kevin Hayes, that would obviously be big. But moves of real consequence to me are more likely to happen in the summer when you can involve 31 other potential teams as opposed to just the teams that are buying and can fit the salary of that player. So that's a different ball game. And this summer, like Al, I've made this point that no matter what they do, and you mentioned Provorov, and I've said to people, be really careful in wishing he gets traded because he's got the best ability in sports, and it's called availability, right? And he's a guy that can play 27 minutes a night like he did against Calgary and come back and give you 25 on the back-to-back. And moving him could create a hole much greater than any you have now. And you may be creating a bigger hole than you can fill. And I said it's very important that this team go on an arc now. I don't know how steep the arc is to getting good and becoming a playoff team and going through those steps of becoming a contender. I don't know how quick that is. I think it's going to take some time, but they can't have steps backwards. They can't come into next year and move backwards. It has to be a progressive step forward because, selling this to a fan base is one thing, but you also got to sell it to that room and that you're a team that's making incremental steps towards getting better. And they cannot take a step backwards next year.
Well, they probably won't because of Atkinson and Couturier. However, the most amazing thing that Tortorella said yesterday was,
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, he warned about next year. There would be some pain. That, like people would say, well, he threw up the white flag for the playoffs. Well, no kidding, that white flag was up a month ago.
Yep.
When he said next year, don't, basically, to paraphrase, don't expect a huge leap. See, that's where, Jason, that's where when you talk about Provorov, to me, if I'm the Los Angeles Kings, he's a guy, if I can get now, he helps me right now, and he helps me for several years down the road.
Yeah.
I'd give up a lot. I would give up a lot for him.
Quentin Byfield? Would you give up Quentin Byfield?
You know what? I might.
I might too.
If my
It's a cost certainty, that's why.
If my scouts look at him and say, man, and he plays the side you need right now, and we're a team, right now he's going to fit in now. You look out the West, it's like, is anybody going to run away? We have a shot here. And then it's not like a rental. He's going to be a big part of this.
Yeah.
I would think, or Edmonton. I think he'd be terrific in Edmonton. I like him here. But if when you're talking about a bold move that would bring back more, that's the guy that would bring back, to me, looking at it not as a fan, as a general manager, like trying to get my team in order, that I would say, you know what, that guy might be worth the quote overpay because it's not just now. We got this guy for a long time.
Yeah, and he solves a problem for those teams.
Yes.
A big time, the left side in LA. You put him out there with a guy like Drew Doughty? Kidding me?
Yeah, no, that's where your general manager, if you're looking to do that, this is where Tortorella gets involved. Like, want to see who can play, who does this, who does that, and as you mentioned, is it a hole that they can fill? Is it going to have the team go backwards? Is it do we have somebody coming up that can kind of fill that role? I don't see it now, but who knows what they get back and what kids they'll have coming up, what their plan is. But that would be a guy that I would say, okay, he's the guy I'm going to get the most for.
Look at Julian Brisebois, what he's done in Tampa. Yeah. He did it with Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. Gave up more than people thought he was going to give up, but it solved his need. And then he just did it with Jeannot. And you saw the package he gave up for Jeannot. It was a haul. But that's the player I need. So I had to go out and make sure it happened. And look at that team. They're going to be right in there in the mix in the East again. The East is going to be an absolute war, by the way.
It's going to be a war, and you have that general manager giving up that much. You might have the Bruins general manager giving up. He's already given up stuff. And if you're talking about if it's possible to get Hayes, look what the Rangers have done.
Yep.
And To Toronto, I wouldn't do anything, but they will. And
Yep.
then they've already done stuff here. And like I said before, all these and two of them are going to be gone in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, look at these teams. You have Boston. It's got 97 points already. I mean, Jesus. The,
Yeah.
the, I mean, they're 24, 2-3 at home. They're gonna have home ice throughout. And then you look at obviously Toronto. I mean, 82 points. You look at Carolina leading the Metro with 86 points. I mean,
Well, Boston's having a historic year, but if I told you they were going to get knocked out in the first round, I mean, you'd be okay. It would be kind of surprised. Well, second round, sorry, but you wouldn't be shocked if they were because of the teams. Because would anybody be shocked if Tampa beat them?
nope.
But I mean, Toronto eventually is going to
Toronto,
get
you would be, yeah, because they got to win eventually.
win eventually. And if the Rangers get Kane, it's like I don't maybe they may have enough goal scoring to beat Boston's defensive style. So I mean that's how good it is in the East. That's why when you're looking at the Flyers moving somebody, it's like I'm looking at teams in the West and saying we all got a chance.
Yeah,
We
they
don't
do.
have to get through Boston, or we all got a shot.
Yeah, I mean Dallas is right in there. All of a sudden,
Yes,
Colorado's a couple of points back with 2 games in hand, and they've won 6 straight. Minnesota is a team that they've been good over their last 10. Vegas is
right.
the Kings. Yeah,
Vegas
I
is
mean,
coming to the
yeah,
Kings, and if if Kane hadn't made it that clear that he wanted to play in New York, much like Giroux last year with Florida,
yeah.
Dallas with Kane would have been
Oh,
remarkable.
put him on the wing with Sagan.
Yeah, so I mean, this is where at the trade deadline you've got all these considerations, and now what happened with Giroux last year actually doesn't look bad anyway because Tippett looks like a player,
Yeah,
a good player, a really good player. But you do kind of handcuff your general manager in terms of what you can get because it's the only place he wants to go. So Kane's not going to get what you should because if I'm New York, I'm like, hey, he's not going anywhere else. You want
yeah.
anything? Take what we give you.
I'll tell you the team to look out for in the East, Al. Keep an eye on the Islanders because they got if they get Carolina in the first round as wild card number 1 and Pittsburgh gets Boston, I think Pittsburgh will get smoked by Boston. But Carolina against the Islanders because of the Sorokin factor. Look out there. That could be an up.
Yeah,
That could be an interesting series.
well, there's your goalie. I mean, that's you
Yeah,
throw goalies into the equation, and you look in the East. I mean, Shesterkin's not playing as well as he has in the past. Tampa's got the goaltending.
yeah,
Boston's goaltending has been really, really good.
yeah,
But I mean, you go in the playoffs. Everybody says you got to be a playoff goaltender. We'll see what happens. But no, he's the great equalizer there on the island on what could happen to see them back in Pittsburgh. I I'd give them credit they make the playoffs because I thought things could fall apart. Those 3 guys they have continue to carry them. But boy, I'll tell you, you want to talk about a team that could fall off the cliff in the next 2 years.
oof, I know.
They could really, that could get really ugly. Right? It's not, I don't know how they'll do it, but somehow they'll end up with Bedard.
Yeah. Oh God, if they do, forget it. They're gonna get kicked out of the Keystone State if that happens.
I don't know how, it'd have to be a miracle somehow. Somebody that sort of takes stupid pills to get them there. But
Yeah,
after they've had Lemieux and Crosby, I'm like, just please no.
yeah, and Yager is a buffer.
Yeah.
Kidding me? Yeah, I mean, you look at all the teams with question marks in the East. Toronto's a question mark, obviously, and the Devils are a question mark to me, and the Penguins are a huge question mark to me, and they're all the teams that have question marks in the crease. It's amazing. Because you look at, I really like Allmark. Did you see the goal he had, Al?
Yeah, that was a hell of a shot. That was
Jesus,
that was a
cannon.
I thought it was going to go the entire length of the ice. It's just,
Yeah,
just sail into the net. No, I love their celebration, their goaltender celebration after games.
going
The
down the line.
the goalie hugs.
Yeah,
It's pretty good. They've got a pretty good group there right now. In addition to on the ice,
uh-huh.
they really have a blast.
Yeah. I went and down the YouTube route because we were talking yesterday at practice, you and I, who are all the goalie goals, right? So I found this YouTube video that has all the goalie goals, including Olmark's. And the first one's Billy Smith. He touches a puck and it ends up
Yeah,
in the opposition net. And then the second one is Hexie in '87,
yeah,
and
I would
he's the
check
first
that.
one to shoot. His actually landed beyond the blue line as well.
Yeah,
And then the second one that he scores is the playoff one against Washington, and he actually shoots that from below his goal line. And
yeah,
puts
no, he was, and then Brodeur. I mean, Marty actually wasn't that kind of a goalie as a kid until remember his dad was a photographer
mm-hmm.
at the Montreal Forum when the Canadians played there, and he came back home after seeing Hextall and told Marty, "I saw the new way goalies are going to play. You should get involved." And he started
Yeah,
shooting puck every day, and it
yeah.
paid.
Jose Theodore scored one backhand from below his goal line. He just sent one down. But one of Marty's was actually against the Flyers, and it was
That's
just
right.
because he touched it last. It was
That's
his
right.
second. And I see Bundy there trying to keep it out of the net, and he ended up with 3. So pretty interesting stuff. Al, what are we going to see? Parting thought from you. What are we going to see here to wrap up this season?
I think you're going to see the kids get a chance, more than one coming up to get a chance to see what they have, to see what they look like. I think you'll see. I don't know that I think you'll see the Hart get some rest,
Mm-hmm.
not because he's had a pretty grueling schedule, and I think you'll see Tortorella. I don't think he's going to go off on anybody. We'll see what they do with the trade deadline to see what they've got coming in. But I think you want to see kids get chances in tougher positions, 2 minutes to go. I think you'll see Couturier. I think you'll see uh, marked improvement in the faceoffs with Cates. I think
Yeah,
they're going to work on that a lot. And I hope you see something in terms of deployment of the power play, even with D'Angelo there. I mean, it's kind of disheartening to see where they are with the power play when they added D'Angelo, who's a pretty good power play guy, actually
mm-hmm.
gets the shot through.
Yeah,
But I think what I'll be looking for is how are they going to use this? What setups are they going to use? Trying to get into that offensive zone. That to me is a coaching nightmare because it shouldn't be that difficult.
yeah,
I mean, maybe it's just the style. Maybe you have to go back to chase, chase it in or whatever. But there's something going on here with an inability, and it's not just all skill level. I mean, it's chaotic at the blue line
yeah,
on an inability to read gaps and get the puck in. Even I think they've surrendered the slingshot, which maybe they're going to have to bring back because this is not working at all
yeah.
on what's gone on.
And the problem with that too is the other point you made is you're so bad in the faceoff circle
Yeah,
without Couturier and Giroux now that you don't get automatic possession on your power play ever. You got to
no,
start behind your own net after they ice it.
yeah, and that's why one way or the other, there has to be something to getting in the zone on the power play, and that's where when I go to practice, I'm like, they don't really practice that much. It doesn't look like.
Yeah,
I mean, you see it occasionally, but his practice schedules are different than anything I've ever seen in terms of rest and how they there's short games or the small games that they play, the physical battles that they have all the time.
yeah. Small area games. And the thing is too is y- I mean, their power play in the month of February clicked at 11.8%.
Yeah,
Toronto's clicked at, I think, 30, or Edmonton's rather, at like 33% for the
yeah.
month.
Well, and when you look at it, I mean, a 7-0 game. If your power play had worked, it changes everything. It keeps it close anyway.
Yeah,
The other problem is they don't have the puck a lot, which sounds dumb, but that's a pretty basic principle to control a game. They just
yeah,
don't have the puck that often, which means that they're not even drawing that many penalties, and that where you can get a couple more chances on it. But because they don't have possession, they don't draw penalties. I mean, Tippett draws them because he's got some
moving
speed.
his feet. Yep.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, they're not a team that you get that many. So if you do, you better take some advantage of them.
Yeah, they played against Montreal. Montreal leads the league in minor penalties in a game. They didn't take a single minor penalty. There was one penalty in the game that they took. It was a fight,
Yeah,
because Allison got in a scrap after Lawton got hit, but
yeah.
they didn't go on the power play at all.
You don't have a puck to get pulled down,
Yeah.
so you don't have possession, so you're not getting any power plays.
You know the old saying, Al, control the puck, control the game. It's really simple. You got to win the puck when you don't have it, and keep it as long as you can. Well, we'll see where it goes. How's post radio show Al been? You sleeping in a little
It's
bit?
a little bit. We've had a lot of games, so it's been busy. But this week, there's no game. Wednesday's at TNT,
Yeah.
and then I'll play again till Sunday. So no games this week. So it's been okay. I'll go back and do some stuff in a couple of weeks, I guess. Just some weekend, maybe podcasts. So, yeah, I'll have you on my podcast if I ever come up with a name.
Yeah, well, we'll come up with a crowdsourcing name. That's how I did it. I couldn't figure it out. Everybody always told me, stick to hockey, stick to hockey.
There you
Your
go.
opinion doesn't matter on anything else. So go, boom, there's the name of the podcast, Stick to Hockey.
A good one.
Have you talked to Ange at all?
No, I never talked to him before, so
Yeah.
it was. It's he's got a comfortable life in Chestnut Hill, I guess, and I'm out here in Jersey. So no, I've been just doing hockey stuff and having just relaxing a little bit. I mean, it is weird getting up at 5:36, whatever, compared to 3. It's
Yeah.
kind of, but it was
Get
I don't miss it. So it's
Yeah.
I can get more into this, and it's a hard it's hard keeping up with all the other sports when you're doing everything.
Yeah.
You have to like Sixers, Eagles. Oh, it's like Eagles all the time. Phillies now. It's really it's like homework.
Yeah.
Because the fan bases are of each team. Now the Eagles are kind of more widespread, but the fan bases of each team are so much more into the intricacies of it.
Yep.
To try, you can't just kind of surface. You can't surf the
Can't
surface.
broad stroke it. Yep.
No, it's hard to.
Yeah.
Because the people into those sports are really, really into them. So it becomes homework to try to keep up with everything on what's going on. And it's nice to just more concentrate. Like, I don't worry about anything anymore except the Flyers in the NHL, which
Yeah.
is just I'll have to go back when I start going back, get more into it. And the Phillies are cranked up, so I will miss that. I do like talking baseball. Is easy to talk, especially with these crazy rule changes coming up.
Yeah.
That's for everybody to get involved in.
Yeah. Games are taking place so much quicker.
Yeah,
It-
nice.
I remember when I got fired in 2019 on Halloween from the Fanatic from doing the daily radio show, I found it incredibly liberating
Yeah.
that I could just concentrate on one sport.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not going to rearrange my life for a Sixers game or a Phillies game or a Flyers game. It was liberating as hell. And
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I'll still do. I think I'm going to do some weekends and podcasts or whatever. So I'll be involved in it. It's. I mean, I didn't want to just stop. I just didn't want to do nothing, or just. I still wanted to work because I still. I mean, I don't feel like 1,000. Might look 1,000, but I don't feel like so I
you
kind
still
of
got more to give.
Yeah, and I still like. I mean, like I like the games. I mean, of all the things that you do, it's still the games. It's
Yeah.
I just enjoy the games. I mean, I watch I don't know how many games every night I can watch, and I don't care if a team's in the playoff, out of the playoff. I find something interesting in all of them. And even now, I watch a lot of college hockey now. I don't get any much from the juniors. I don't see much of that, but I do see a lot of Eastern College hockey.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the hell out of that too. So it's still fun.
Yeah. You and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. Like I'll just go to if there's like an 18U showcase of tier 1 players, I'll go watch it. Because I just want to watch good hockey.
Yeah, I watch it. It's fun. It's a good game because you can even tell when your kids play. Like if you have kids that play little league and then soccer and lacrosse and all that stuff, the most fun is when they play hockey.
Yeah.
That's the most fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's like little league. I love baseball, but my God,
Yeah.
you got to be a saint to watch baseball, swimming.
I'd prefer a root canal. My son they had their first playoff game last night, and Flyers Cup starts next week. They're a number 2 seed, and he's playing varsity, and they played last night in their first playoff game for the Chestnut, and they won. They beat Unionville 6-3. So we're back tonight at 8:30 to take on Avon Grove and see if they can win their league title first. So.
It's fun.
It is, and I'm not coaching, so it's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah,
like I sit in the stands with my wife. She's ready to kill me.
Yeah, you don't want to coach. I mean, I might actually do a little bit of that, but I never had a kid on the team, and
yeah,
that was enjoyable.
Yeah, I this was my last year. I said he needs to hear a different voice, and enough dad, enough me. Although he's been really good about like separating that. He calls me coach on the ice.
Yeah,
you know, because I'm not dad on the ice. So I'll crawl up his ass like anybody else's. So, but yeah, it is a great game. Al, thanks for doing this, man. We'll be on the lookout for your pod and your weekend shows and all that stuff. We'll be seeing you on NBC Sports Philly with Ashlyn. You guys are doing great work. Thanks for doing this as always.
All right, anytime, Jason.
There he is, Al Morganti. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching episode 53, Stick to Hockey Live. We're back Thursday with Anthony DeMarco, so join us then. Have a great day, everybody.